Ooh, already coming out with a banger for the NBA Finals Game 1. Told y'all. Told y'all. I was like, hold on, let me calm down for some. If any of y'all happen to say, I wasn't over here being like, yo, like this. I was like, told you this was going to be a close game. Told you about them Pacers. I was like, don't get me wrong, I'm still over here, Oklahoma. But at the same time, told you them Pacers can match up with them. That's why I said this was the matchup that they needed. To be honest, it's also the game they needed. Because I was like, this game could have got bad. It could have been a straight up blown out situation. I said that don't be surprised if there is blowouts in this game. Because I was like, both teams have that capability. Oklahoma City has more of a chance. But the amount of turnovers that Indiana had that Oklahoma City did not necessarily get their rocks off on. I think that would help. I was like, kind of like Indiana's one of them teams, and they shown it this whole playoff days from last year to this year, and it's like we was giving this narrative to the Knicks the whole time. I was like, but the edge to it is that it's like, and like the reason I said that they got a better chance against Oklahoma City is because of their depth in a way. So they always are the team that's like, you let them stick around, they're gonna get your ass. But you seen Halliburton didn't have a good game at all. It was like Siakam. I was like Toppin. I was like Turner came on in the fourth quarter. I was like Nembhard just sort of. It seemed like he got to a point where he just said, "Man, screw this," and he was just over here just being like, it's like at some point it just was like, man, if this is how we gonna play, then this is how we gonna play. And they just started basically just like being like, all right, cool, that's what they're gonna do. We're gonna match up with them. And I was like, you seen them like that within the other series. I was like, with the Cleveland, they came out and they were playing a lot extra aggressive. Cause I was like, Kenny Axis made a point to talk about that. With the Knicks, I was like, they were sort of a little battle testing from the other one. They sort of was kind of like, oh, y'all think y'all just going to just like shoulder us and punk us? It's like, nah, that's not what we're gonna do either. So by the time you get to this situation, and it's like, I think at first they were sort of getting them, cause they always were close. They were always close. They were like 6. I was like, then it would be like 10. Then it'd be like 4. Then it'd be like 12. Then it'd be like 7. I was like, so it's like always was able to just stay around. They would just do enough runs to basically keep them close. But I was like, you just sort of seen that they just sort of were just like, cause like Oklahoma City was still doing their defense wherever they were still swarming. They were still being rough with them. They still was making them have, I point out, turnovers or whatever. But it's like at some point, I was like, also they started. Chet wasn't having a good game and whatnot, and then I was like, then they actually just sort of like went. I was like, they're big. I was like, Indiana's big and not the same thing as Oklahoma City big, and what I mean is like during their small lineups. Pascal Siakam, Obi Toppin is a different type of big than when you play J Dub and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, you play them at that spots, but that doesn't mean that they're actually those spots. I was like, their bigs are actually like a big wide body type bigs compared to Oklahoma City, which is more. I was like, yeah, they could play those spots, but they're small actually. Like Dora is really your girthy type of dude. You even could sort of say Caruso, Hartenstein. I was like, yeah, he has some bulk, but it's like compared to the rest of the Indiana, I was like, yeah, Miles Turner. I was like, he looks scrawny, but I was like, that dude's 7 feet and he's a big. I was like, he's a big guy. I was like, Thomas Bryant is a big guy, or whatever. So I was like, I think that's sort of where I was like, where they also changed that too, in the game. But like I said, I was like, you can't. The thing that makes them so, I was like, the Pacers so really good is not just the fact of like from these deficits they could come back, and it's because of their depth of players. The thing is with Oklahoma City is like everybody can hit shots, and if everybody's on, then you sort of in trouble. But we also know that it's like it's Shea who basically got 40. I was like J-Dub that had a game. Sort of, to be honest, sort of where he's been at this whole playoffs. And Chet, who didn't have a good game. I was like, then after that, like Lou Dort had 15, but I was like, that's really kind of where he's always at. People you got off the bench, I was like, anybody really gets you over 10 points, it's kind of like, oh snap, like awesome. We wasn't expecting that. See, I was like, that's where it's different between like OKC do have, like, yeah, they have depth, but they actually still got the format that where I was like, I disagree with people that's like, oh, let's do NBA with depth. Is that it's like, yeah, but they still got star player, and then they got 2 and 3 that aren't like, yeah, they aren't big three in that type of way, but I was like, that's sort of how it used to be back in the day, where it's like you had your main star and then you had like your two like all-star-ish players and then a bunch of role players beside them. I was like, Pacers, I was like, you got Hallie and you got Siakam, they're two all-star players. Miles Turner is an all-star-ish type of like level dude. Like like he can get up to that spot. And then everybody else is high as like high end role play, but they have so many of them more than Oklahoma City. I was like, Oklahoma City, like their swarmer defense will get you if you basically only got like a star player. That's why they was able to basically get Minnesota about the paint or whatever. I was like, why they had sort of difficulty with Denver is because I was like, Denver not only Jokic's best player, I was like, but Jamal Murray can go for buckets and Aaron Gordon, so they got enough people there. If Michael Porter Jr. would actually give them something, it might be a different story. But the Pacers, like I said, you got Siakam, you got Nembhard, you got Obi. I was like, you got Nate Smith, who was out there giving them buckets. I was like, yeah, they got so many dudes that can just get you buckets in a way. And I was like, that's the dangerous part. Cause all them dudes can like they were like 6 dudes over there with double digits, but I mean like real double digits, not just like, you know, where it's just like he got 10 points. It's like, okay, you know, that kind of thing. So I was like, that's what I think is where Oklahoma City had to. Now, I will say, neither team played great basketball. They played like all right, good. You know, I was gonna say this is probably one of the better game 1 games that we've had in a long time, to where it's like I was like, where it's like, this is kind of, you know how to use the narrative where like, oh, there's a little bit of jitters here playing in the finals, all the lights and the cameras and the action. I'm saying, I'm sorry, Miss Jackson, out here, but I think they still sort of play where I was like, not their best basketball, but I think they still play fairly well than what we normally get from some of these games. I was like, but this is what the NBA needed, because if you're on, I was like, outside of the dudes that's going to watch the finals in the NBA regardless, you know, like I was like, I'm going to watch it regardless. It's more so the fact that it's like, hey, if you was on the outside being like, maybe you might be like, I was like, that's sort of where it's like you look at the score and you're like, it's down 10 with like 4 minutes to go. Then you like, oh, they down 6? Hold on, let me go check. Then you see you see the game winner, because the game winner was ridiculous. Because also I will also say this, that I do like the fact that I was like, Shea was not getting some calls that I feel like he would have got. Like that shot towards the end when he was going to get Nembhard and sort of got like pushed back in a way, but I was like, thank God they didn't give him the foul. And the thing is, I think a couple plays before that as well too, there was also another one that he did not get the foul as well. And I was like, cool. I was like, great. I was like, they're good. They are not. They haven't. They really wasn't given the call. I thought they did a pretty good job on a lot of the calls as well too, being like fair on like each side with some of those hand, like, you know, going for the shot type calls, but they didn't give it to Shea. But once Shea missed that shot, I already knew. It seemed like it never fails that if your star player on one end misses it, that other star player is about to win the game. I was like, now I always saying this is a game winner, but it's like the basketball god is like, hey, you had a good look. I gave it to you. So we're going to spread some of the dust over here. And I was like, once Hallie, because I was like, they wasn't going to really get anything. Then he was able to get to the other side, and I was like, he had the ISO, and he just had just enough. and I was like, his shot was soft in such a way that I was like, oh, that's going in. Thing is, I was like, funny enough, I said it out loud. Whoa, I was like, everybody was like, what happened? Because I was like, oh, that's good. And then he hit the shot, and I was just like, oh, and because it's just like, it's crazy. He wasn't having a good game. It didn't matter. He said, give me the ball, I'm gonna take it, because that's who I am. And I was like, and like I said, this is the series that it can flip and change totally for. I was like, Shea or Hallie, because Shea still's going to give you like 30 to 40 points. So I was like, he's still going to give you that. That's going to be able to put him up another level. But this to me is what gets Hallie on top of a bigger stage. He ain't got the commercials. He ain't got nothing. The biggest thing that we really got with him is a funny off the court meme about him snowing, and then like his daddy. He ain't got the stuff. So guess what? Doing stuff like that he's been doing all the playoff, but now you're on a bigger stage where it's just like now regular people are also watching, not just the kind of like kind of still sort of. I was like, people are still watching, even though I said this is just if you outside the NBA type of people. I was like, this is the type of stuff that makes it on the highlight center. I was like, people who ain't watching this highlights on your phone, to all that other stuff that gets you seen in a different type of light, because it's easy to consume that. And I was like, that dude went out there, took game one, when I was like, me included, picking Oklahoma City. Now, that doesn't mean that the whole series ain't over. But I think it does change the dynamic of the game. Now, the Thunder, they normally do come out, second game, bust your ass. Like I said, though, different team. Because I was like, they got the bigs they can play with them. They got the wings they can play with them. Halliburton is not your normal star player that is going to be out here giving you 30. So the way to guard him and the way to stop him isn't the same way that you would have with anybody else. And that's why I said if the Knicks would have been here, it wouldn't have been the same. I wouldn't have had the same feeling. Because I was like, you can match up with those guys. Where I was like, here, you can't really match up. They're going to have to do something a little bit more unorthodox. They tried to with the small ball in a way, but I was like, that really just sort of got the Pacers going. But anyway, Hallie came out, was that dude, and put everybody on notice. And if you're shocked, you shouldn't be. I was like, being shocked is a little bit past. I was like, surprised maybe. Shocked, no. But anyway, if this is the finals we're going to get, we're set up for a good one. Game 2 ain't until Sunday, so that's a pretty good amount of time of rest, weirdly enough. But I was like, I get it. Sunday, NBA, whatever. Till then.